I guess I suppose I can. All right. Hey guys, my name is Crystal Lane. My first jam was actually our last jam with who's currently ADLM or who's previously AACC, which was Chicago in 2018.
How about you, Heather?
So I'm Heather Herrington. My first jam was Louisville when it was virtual, thanks COVID. But my first in-person jam was Providence. Or no, wait, Grand Rapids. Yeah, it's been a while.
Right. And Heather, you're also on one of the committees for this year's upcoming jam, correct?
Oh, I'm on multiple committees. I'm on the annual meeting steering committee and have been for years, and I'm on the host committee for this year's jam in Pittsburgh. Come visit us. It's a great city.
Heather lives in Pittsburgh, everyone, so she's very fond. All right, Sarah, how about you?
I'm Sarah Steinberg, and my first jam was in Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids.
Yeah,
And
Michigan.
okay. How about you, Ethan?
Yeah, so my name's Ethan, and my first jam was last year in Providence. It's pretty exciting.
Providence. All right, guys. Well, my first jam was also in Grand Rapids. So a lot of us have that in common here. That was 2 years ago. So our first question, to sort of expand on things, for a first-time attendee, what should they expect, and how do you think someone should make the most out of their experience? Sarah, would you like to answer?
Um, I think what to expect is, I don't know, I think going into your first jam, kind of having no expectations is the best. Because when you get to jam, you're gonna be totally blown away. That's where you really meet. I always say ASCLS has really become a family to me since I've started and become more involved. But my first jam at Grand Rapids is it was the springboard of me becoming more involved in ASCLS and finding out how to become an active member, not just in my state and my region, but nationally as well. So I think just have no expectations and just go there to soak everything up like a sponge. That's what I would recommend personally.
Yeah, I really like that. How about you, Heather? What do you think?
So, like, we're lab people, we're introverts, and I get that, but like talk to people. If there's a social event, go to it. Like if there's a social event, go to it and talk to people because you will hear time and time again, like, what do you get out of these meetings? Oh, I get to reunite with people, I meet people, whatever. Like, talk to people. Even if you are a super ultra mega introvert, go to the social things, no matter how uncomfortable you feel, and just lock eyes with someone and talk to them. Like, be weird about it. Go up and talk to them. We'll talk back, I promise.
If I can piggyback off of Heather too, if you do feel uncomfortable, awkward, shy, like and your like little introverted heart is breaking on the inside, I promise you someone will adopt you. They will adopt you and bring you under their shoulders. And honestly, again, that's how we become a family and we'll become your safe people.
I'll adopt you. Come to me. Bring it.
Well, and the nice thing is that, we already have something in common with everybody that's there. You're all in the lab. So it's not like you have to go through that awkward, well, what hobbies are you interested in? XYZ, like you guys are in the same working field. You have worked the same type of benches. You're dealing with the same types of patients. So you have a lot in common already, and that already just sets the ground for a really strong friendship.
Absolutely. I would also add that there's so much going on at Jam that like definitely download the Jam app and take a peek at the schedule before you get there. I'm a chronic planner, so I definitely was like, oh my gosh, there's an app. And I planned out everything that I wanted to go to, which you don't have to do that, but at least it gives you an idea of like, okay, here's the things that I want to go to. Here's the things that like I want to go see. And it also gives you a list of everybody that's registered. So you can message people like in there that you're like, oh, I see that you're from the same state or the same region that I'm from. Like, yeah. So anyways, it gives you a good opportunity to kind of connect with people that way and give you a little bit better lay of the land. And I think there were maps in there too of like all of the conference rooms, which was really nice.
Well, and the app also lets you look up the speakers. And
Mhm.
so if you go to a talk and really like it, you can look up who the speaker was and message them after the fact. If you don't have like the courage to go up to them after their talk, you can do that after the fact, and you should.
I agree. And another cool thing about the app also that is available now is that, let's say you want to go to two sessions at the same time. The way that I pick between it is, I think like, okay, which session do I feel like I'm going to have more questions for the speaker? I'm one of those obnoxious people that always have questions during sessions. And so if I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of questions in one, that's the one I'll go to in person. But then it's really nice because then you'll be able to go in, once it's available, you'll be able to watch the recording, which is so nice. And it's just such a wealth of knowledge. It's amazing.
I think something else to consider too is we have some speakers who are far better in person, that they're more active in person. I'm trying to, one off the top of my head that comes up every year that everybody loves going to is Dan, the safety man. He always has something going on. He's always throwing things out at people for participating. So, listen to, when you find your adoptive lad parents for the conference, find out where they're going, especially if they've been there before. And just kind of, make your way, find out what the things that are going to interest you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. Personally, I love the socializing. My very first night at Jam in Grand Rapids, Heather adopted me, and we've been besties ever since. So I can definitely attest to that. My little introvert heart was saved by her.
And my little introvert heart too. Like, you can be an introvert and still reach out and like make friends at Jam.
Absolutely. All right. So we've talked a lot about socializing. What are some of the formal social events like, such as the host committee event, the president's reception, the forum social for the ascending professionals? What do you guys think of those experiences?
Oh, hey. So, I am both the Ascending Professionals Forum director and the host committee liaison. And so I'm organizing a lot of stuff this year. So the Ascending Professionals, the APF and DPF events, I have somewhat picked a place, and the venue is going to rule, and that's going to be on Monday night. Highly, highly, highly recommend you come to it. The host committee social is also going to be on Monday night. Those two events always overlap, and it kills me because going to both is painful, but I highly recommend both of them. Monday this year, there's also going to be a Pirates game at PNC Park at like 12:30 p.m. Don't quote me on that. It's on the registration website. But you'll get tickets to the game. It also has like a voucher for food and drink. And even if you don't like baseball, PNC Park is amazing. Like, go there just for the views of the river. Like, I highly, highly recommend doing that this year. So, like, those three things in particular, I suggest.
I think I just saw a question from Anthony that was asking if we needed to pre-register for the sessions, and I think the answer is no. Generally, you're pretty okay to just show up.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for that, Ethan.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. Read my mind.
All right. Anyone else want to talk about the social events? Sarah?
I'd say so the President's Social, both at my first jam and last year, it is always so much fun going to that. I think that's like a really fun opportunity to just like have some good, I don't know. It's more like, I think like hors d'oeuvres, like kind of snacks and drinks, and it's just a really nice way to kind of break the ice and loosen up around everybody. And then I think that's, again, I feel like that the President's Social was kind of where I kind of let my guard down a little bit more too, and during my first jam. And then second jam, of course, but it was feeling pretty good by then. So I definitely think that that's fun. Heather, I had a question for you about the baseball game. Do you have to like reserve that, or for anyone that's interested?
I'm pretty sure that on the jam registration website, it has a way to get a ticket to the Pirates game. The President's Social is Tuesday night. So if you're getting in on Monday and want to like hit the ground running, then it's going to be the Pirates game and then the APF, DPF social and the host committee social on Monday night. So if you're coming in and you want to get it going, those are the Monday things. And then the President's is Tuesday. But come to all of them.
Really, they all kind of merge together at the end of the night, right?
Oh, it's a blur. You don't even know.
Everyone just kind of hangs out every night.
Absolutely.
I think Jerica just asked, how do you get to and from the events? Usually people will either walk, or sometimes, I think last year we ended up taking like a community Uber to get to the APF DPF social. So I mean, everybody just kind of figures out as a group kind of how to get around.
Yeah, the hotel this year, it's at Point State Park, which if you don't live in Pittsburgh, that means literally nothing to you. But PNC Park and the venues that will probably be the APF DPF social are across the river, which sounds really, really far, but it's less than half a mile and it's pretty flat terrain. So it's not a bad walk.
Is there any kind of scooter app or anything that we should know about ahead of time that we could go ahead and download and be prepared to use?
I believe that the scooter companies have all been trash talked out of town.
Lame.
No, people were not doing well on those. So
okay, maybe that's for the best.
it's for the best that they kind of got voted off the island, but yeah, it's pretty walkable. And if not walkable, like Lyft and Uber are very, very well used in Pittsburgh.
Gotcha. I think for myself, I've always found it's really easy to get around. Most stuff is very close to the hotel site and the meeting site.
Yeah, we try really, really, really hard to make everything easy to get to.
Yeah, very accommodating. And the President's reception has great food and drinks. So we love that.
Free drinks.
All
and
right.
I think the President's reception will also be the silent auction this year. I believe Barbara sent out that email earlier that it was going to be an in-person silent auction.
That is true. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
That'll be different.
And
that's good.
It is cool to see, like, be able to see everything in person instead of just online, but the app has always been really cool too. Regardless, it's so many fun things.
I mean, the app was good because it incorporates people who can't be there, but being able to do it in person and like walking by and go, oh, somebody already bidded on that item, and I can't let them outbid me. That was always that we did. I think my first year was one of the last years we did the in person. So I just remember I was bidding on one of the LSU study books. I was like, no, I need this. Stop outbidding me.
Okay, guys. So at Jam, we know there's a lot of education through the day besides the parties and the socializing and all those fun things. Do you feel like when you're attending these sessions that you're learning something new, that we are moving towards the cutting edge of laboratory medicine with our education? What are your thoughts?
I would say there's definitely always something new to be learned. If not something new, something old to brush up on and just kind of be like, oh, that's right, that's how this works. I know for me, when I went just at the tail end of my student year, so I hadn't even really started working a ton. And I attended this presentation on like hematology flow cytometry, and I was like, we didn't really even touch on this in my, like, you know, as a student. And so I was like, this is all new to me. It was really cool. So
I think the sessions are extremely beneficial. And you meet a lot of amazing people that speak there as well. But I think another thing that I'm going to say is true for all ASCLS events, not just JAM, but specifically JAM, is that it kind of reignites that passion in you, even as like a new grad or even still as a student to somebody who's been in the lab for years. I can say with confidence that it's just those sessions really reignite why we do what we do.
I guess kind of to get to go off of what Sarah was saying, you know, it is very much like that recharge. Like you get in there, kind of revitalize, as she said, revitalizes your passion for it. And it also can bring you back to like the basics. So if any of you have received your little booklets and you've looked at the different sessions, there's they're rated. So like there's beginner, intermediate, advanced. And so yeah, you can step into an advanced and probably be able to make your way through it. You know, they're still going to cover the, like, you know, here's the basic terminology, but you know, if there is something you're not as familiar with, say for instance with Ethan with the flow cytometry, there's gonna be those sessions available as well.
I mean, I'm on the steering committee, so like I'm always going to be biased about the programming that we provide, but there is going to be a flow cytometry presentation this year who I know the person doing it, Dr. Dunneberg, is fantastic. He's presented at other national meetings. And so one of the flow talks, at least this year, is going to be stellar. And there's always, like Christal said, there's going to be, you know, beginner, intermediate, advanced. And then this is also the joint annual meeting, which we have people from the military who come and present. And there are things that the military does that, like, I've never seen that before. And so you're going to get to benefit from theirs. And like our sister organizations, like you get to benefit from their speakers too. So it's a lot of stuff that you won't get to see anywhere other than JAM.
And I'd love to add on to what Heather was saying. So with the military, like the Department of Defense is leading, they're going to get the front edge of everything. And with that, we also get vendors that are associated with them. So MEMED, I believe maybe 2 years ago first showed up as a vendor, and they're bringing in like a really neat like point of care type test to differentiate between like a virus or a bacterial infection.
It is wild.
Yes, hoping to bring it into the ERs. And so like that kind of connection and being able to bring in those vendors, that kind of information, those kind of speakers, it's been phenomenal. And I know for me, like that's just been something neat to be able to bring back to my ER and talk to our physicians about. So
along with SAFMLS, the military, we also have AGT that are there. And then I think it's really cool. So I also I'm an educator, but I also work in a molecular lab. And so it's really cool to see that side of it too. And then if anyone's ever interested, I see that like AGT on Monday of every JAM so far that I've seen, they also host like a molecular class if you're interested in getting your MB. And I think that is so cool. And it just, again, just like Christal said, they bring in these really cool vendors and it's from all perspectives and get to take a lot of cool handouts, bring it back to your employers, get to share, you know, with your coworkers, all the amazing things that you were able to learn and see, and new instrumentation to bring on potentially. Is really, really awesome. The vendors are an amazing part, and please go see every single one of them while you go to JAM, because they're all so nice, and it's just great to have those conversations. And you never know too when you might need something.
The vendors usually swag.
The swag and job opportunities. I actually think that's how Jesse ended up at Vanderbilt, right?
That's correct. I got my job at Vanderbilt in Grand Rapids almost 2 years
Because someone pained you into applying.
All right, guys. So we love the vendors, that's for sure. I was actually going to ask that for my next question, but I think you guys covered that really well.
I want to chime in for the chat. It was also pointed out as a registrant, you will have access to sessions for 30 days after the meeting. They're all recorded. So if you come to Pittsburgh and are so overwhelmed by all there is to do here, and there's a lot, and you can't attend every session you want to, you have online access for a month. So you can get that CE sitting in your own home.
Right. And for those of us who are ASCP certified, we know we have to get like 36 or 32, whatever, continuing education credits, 36 in 3 years, I believe. I got all 36 of my credits at the last jam by watching the sessions after in that 30 days. So you really, really get a lot of continuing education. I think just because of ASCLS at this point, I'm up to 66 hours and I'm only like 18 months into my next renewal. So
I would also say make sure you make use of the CE organizer through ASCLS because they transmit your CEs over to ASCP and it makes it so easy when you go in and you're just like, oh yeah, I attended these, and it's super easy.
Yeah, that's smart. Sarah, were you saying something?
I was saying, yeah, to the CE organizer, it's amazing, and make sure you claim your credits within the time. What is it, 30 days or that you have it? I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten to do that.
All right, guys. So what is your favorite part of jam? If it's been your first time or your most recent jam, like what did you really love the most about your experience? Christal?
Sorry. So I guess my favorite part of the experience, I have a couple. So my very first jam, I was coming to Chicago, is a little bit on the more expensive side with where we were staying at. And as a student at the time, I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. So I went on, I believe it was the DPF Facebook page at that time. And I was like, hey, I would love to have a roommate for jam. And I got a hookup through another lady within ASCLS who's been there many years and has been a mentor and good friend of mine, Norma, who got me connected with a couple other students, random students, never met them before, and ended up rooming with 3 other girls for the first meeting that I went to. And then through that, one of them is a really great and dear friend of mine now, and I was in her wedding. I guess more recently, one of my favorite experiences, last year we did a 5K at Lab Jam, which was very interesting. It's been a little while since I've been running, and I was like, oh, this is really exciting. I'm looking forward to doing it again this year because I saw it was in the schedule. But I got lost on that 5K and got to take a little bit of a detour around Providence. So that's probably one of my funner, more random stories that I can share with you guys and search into, that I'm not going to get in trouble for that. So,
I think it rained at that 5K last year, right? Like massive downpour.
It did. We were soaked. We were soaked, and I think it was a Christal. Were you in our group that got lost? And we're like, which way
I was? Yes.
Yeah, and we were like,
follow me.
Yeah, we're like, where are the people? And we found it. I think we still ended up making good timing on our 5K, but yeah,
it just wasn't a 5K at that point. We're looking more like a
no. I think like all of us looking at our watches, we ended up going like a mile or two over.
Maybe that's more of a horror story. I'm not quite sure.
It was a
You guys got the t-shirt though, right?
We did,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and
very proud of that shirt.
If you guys haven't heard, we do have the Lab Jam t-shirts this year also, which is super excited for. It's kind of like, I feel like it's like Lab Week shirts, and get it now before they sell out. But that'll be fun. I think my favorite part of jam is just getting to see all your friends and getting to hang out. And my favorite part about, I'm going to say you guys as a whole, is because it's like, it never skips a beat. Like we live all over the United States, but every single time we see each other at a conference, it's like we didn't miss a day. And I love that. And I don't know, just like I said, it's so cool to be with other like-minded people that share the same passion, the same ticks. Everything I think is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot, Sarah. And actually, just to give you guys an idea of how far apart we are, I'm in Tennessee, Christal's in Tennessee, Heather is in Pennsylvania, Ethan's in Montana, and Sarah is all the way in Wyoming. So we are very broad here. Anyone else want to add what their favorite part of Jam is?
I would just like to echo the sentiment of the community that just kind of happens. Like, I know that y'all talked about sort of like going up to people and making friends, but honestly, it just like happened so naturally that I didn't even have to like think about it. All of a sudden, I was friends with all these people, and I also partially blame Jesse because he like just walked up to me at like this at the social event and was like, "I'm Jesse," and I was like, "Okay," and then I just kind of followed him around for the rest of it and made friends with everybody else, and it was great. So that's awesome.
Take notes, guys. That's how it's done. You just pick someone and snatch them, and they're yours.
Absolutely. Yeah, you really do. Like the last year, just like the group of us walking together to the APF and DPF social event, I feel like it's like we all kind of start off with our normal group of friends, and then all of a sudden we're like, "Hey, what's your name?" And then we're walking with those people, we're like, "Hey, where are you from?" And you, like I say, you just all become best friends. It's like going away to summer camp.
Well, and like legit, if you like come glom on to me, like I'm introverted and awkward, but if you pick me as your person, like I'm gonna be your person. And I'm gonna be your person like the entire way through jam. So if you come up to me and are like, I don't know anyone here, help, that's it. I'm helping. And I feel like anyone here, like you are now their person and they will help.
I would echo that sentiment and also say that if you meet anyone from Region 8, they probably will be very friendly. That's my region, so I'm a little biased, but and Sarah's region. So
All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I agree. I think my favorite part is the social aspect. I love the education and everything, but the networking is invaluable. Just so many people to meet, and it's great. All right. So why do you think attending a professional conference is important? And what does it contribute to your professional development?
Do we want to go over that? I saw Anthony asked a question really quick. How many attendees are expected to be at this jam, and how many approximately are usually in each session? Not sure if you guys know that.
I think
not
we
quite
have
sure.
like most of them are like 500 to 600 register for in person. I could be wrong, but it's around there. As far as in each session, it varies. I think that some of the sessions have, I don't know, like 50 to 60. Like the plenary sessions are bigger because those are the only ones during that time slot. So those have a lot of people. But some of the smaller sessions, I mean, 30 to 100, like it varies a lot depending on the size of the room. Yeah, so Andrea is saying that right now we have about 350 to 374, but we still have a ways to go. So I suspect it will go up, especially as the registration deadline, early registration creeps closer and closer. But yeah, the keynotes / plenary, pretty much everyone there goes.
Yeah, and when everyone when we're saying everyone attends, there are 3 societies that make up the joint annual meeting. That is ASCLS, AGT, and SAFMLS. So as Andrea pointed out in the chat, the keynotes have almost everyone there. That's 3 societies coming together in this massive room, hundreds of people all together at once. And yeah, the presentation of colors is done by the military, and it's really cool to see. Very cool in the beginning there. For those who might be wondering, the military is there because one of our partners, SAFMLS, is the Society of American Federal Medical Laboratory Scientists. And so that is all of the laboratory professionals throughout the military branches. And I believe every branch is represented at the meeting.
I enlisted in the Army when I was 17, so I was in the Army pre-lab, and I'm no longer in the military, but having been in the military, like seeing the presentation of colors it's wild. Like it's really, really cool.
All right. So why do you think attending a professional conference is important? And what does it contribute to your professional development?
I can bat this one first because I just wrote an essay to my employer about this so that they would give me money. Anyways, I think conference attendance is important. Like, one, for the networking, that's huge. Like, you make friends across the United States, which, I mean, significantly increases your job prospects if you're looking to move somewhere out of your normal area, which is awesome. Gives you those CE credits and maybe exposes you to a technique or some way that some other lab does something that maybe you don't, but you could incorporate into your lab and kind of improve, which is really cool. You get to meet the vendors, which gives you, you know, kind of a little peek into some of the, you know, maybe newer technologies or just things that you weren't aware of. They give you a lot of really cool demos. They brought a ton of the like the analyzer companies brought their trucks last year, and you could walk through and take a peek at all their different analyzers and track systems, and that was super cool. And then also I would say there's the involvement piece. So there's like a ton of opportunities and exposure to get involved with ASCLS. Like as a volunteer in volunteer positions. That's how I ended up on this panel and on the Ascending Professionals Forum, which I think is really good because that just gives you more of a like tangible grasp on the profession. Because of my involvement, I got to go to legislative days last October in DC and lobby for, you know, better legislation around the lab, and that was really cool. So it just allows you to be more involved as well and just kind of be like, hey, this is like my career, this is my profession, and it really just makes it personal and important, I think, for me anyways.
Yeah,
I feel like it's also like Sarah was talking about how there are certain sessions where you know, look up in advance and think, oh, I might have questions here. It's a really cool opportunity to be able to, after a talk, get up, go to a microphone and ask the expert. And, you know, it's terrifying going up and asking a question, but like, you have the opportunity to do that. Like, you have a chance to go up to an expert in their field and be like, hey, I was thinking about blur, like answer my question. And like, this is your shot to do that, which is wild.
I agree more. And I would say if you're feeling nervous about asking a question, one, I feel like what really helps is to write your question down before you go up and ask your question. But two, don't feel nervous because the speakers really enjoy being asked questions. Honestly, I think it helps them feel less nervous also. And I mean, maybe Jesse can speak to this because I know Jesse spoke last year.
The speakers are also sometimes nervous.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So I was a speaker last year. I'm not speaking at this jam, but for me, from a speaker's perspective, I was really nervous at first, and in the first few minutes, it was kind of a huge relief for me. There were a lot of people I knew in the room, and the people I didn't know were really supportive and also, a part of the same field. So it ended up being a lot less intimidating than maybe if I were speaking to a much larger crowd of people from different backgrounds. And I think it was huge for my professional development to just take that step out of my comfort zone and do that. And that's something that's available to any member of ASCLS. You can apply to become a speaker at one of the annual meetings or other regional meetings or conferences that we have throughout the year.
And we encourage people who haven't spoken before. Like, there are people on this panel who are speaking this year, and I'm really excited about that.
Sarah, is that you? Are you speaking this year?
I am.
And
Christal too.
yeah,
Christal, you are too?
I'm so excited.
It's exciting.
That is very exciting.
Well, I'll go to each other's talks, and hopefully everybody else joining us here today will.
See, maybe that
I'll
gives you guys a
support.
sense of our sense of community here, just with each other. I think this group all knows each other pretty well, so we tend to be very supportive, and I really love that. So, any other comments on professional development and how you feel like this moves your career forward?
I would just say that I think that it helps gain confidence, and just like I said earlier, it opens the door for you to be involved in more activities. Like I'd say like one of the biggest ones besides the Ascending Professionals Forum that JAM opened up for me is also the Government Affairs Committee. I've been really passionate about also, and going, just like Ethan said, we went to DC last year, and I was able to go to DC the year before, and it's really cool to be able to, not only for your own professional development, but like professional advocacy too, and then helping your coworkers and others who may not feel like as comfortable or confident to get to that point. And it really starts with us, it really starts with every single one of us here right now. And the fact that, you're taking that step to go to JAM virtually or in person, regardless, you're taking that step to become a better professional and then help, support the laboratory community as a whole. And I think that that's really awesome.
I think something I'll add to that, maybe it shouldn't be. My employer does not know I'm currently applying for other jobs right now. But I recently had an interview where my involvement with ASCLS was a note of importance for them, that because I'm involved outside of work, it's something that clearly I care about outside of work, that I'm going to care about the job that I'm doing in the lab as well. And even from that, my involvement with ASCLS has got me involved in other organizations. They saw that our revitalization effort in Tennessee was something that they needed help with revitalizing another organization nearby. So it just opens doors for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue with that one. So, for those who might have budgetary constraints, and this can look really expensive, how do you think that someone could attend the annual meeting or another one of the conferences even on a budget?
I guess I'll start. So I shared earlier about my very first year was a more expensive meeting. I found roommates. There are Facebook group pages that you can use specific for ASCLS that you can reach out to, and you can find roommates to help with the cost of your room. There are also scholarship opportunities through ASCLS, specifically through the APF and DPF forums. I believe ASCLS also has a travel grant as well outside of APF, DPF. That one I'm not as sure about because I haven't utilized that one. But I've utilized both the DPF and APF scholarships every year leading up to this year. I think this will be the first year I won't, but this year I'm getting support through the state society. So, reaching out to your state societies, if you need help getting in contact with any of this, if there's anybody on here that's not sure, feel free to reach out to anybody here on this current panel, and we can help you get in contact with somebody. And I believe Jen and Andrea are also on here as well, and they can help with that regard. But there's scholarship opportunities, finding roommates. cheap flights. Driving sometimes helps, so I'll be driving up this year, which is normally what I do anyways because I don't like flying. But driving's a little bit of a cheaper option. So
I piggyback off what Christal said, definitely like scholarship opportunities, looking into your state society if they're able to help. Some states like give you a stipend, some states will let you will maybe say like we'll pay for half a hotel room or your plane ticket. And then just like Christal said, find roommates. And then honestly, I know I probably sound really old when I say this, but start budgeting as soon as possible. Like honestly, after my first jam, I started budgeting for the next jam right after. I was like, okay, so next year, because they'll tell you at jam where the next jam is going to be. So when I was in Grand Rapids, I said, okay, if I want to go to Providence, then I'm going to look up how much it is to eat out there, how much plane ticket. I mean, flying out of Wyoming is insanely expensive. So usually, we'll drive to Denver, which is about 4 hours away, and then fly out of there. Maybe look at options like that. And then again, look at hotels. You don't always have to yes, I'd say, oh yeah, I'm a budgeting wizard. Please reach out to me. But definitely look at, you don't have to stay at the hotel that's recommended. Just like I think Christal, you mentioned that you stayed at a different hotel, or
I've been camping the last few meetings.
oh my
My boyfriend
gosh,
and I
that's
come
so
up in a
cool.
camper. So and
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you, but Ethan had mentioned earlier he applied through his employer. He wrote an essay
Yes,
for it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
scholarships through employers, if Ethan wants
Yes.
to talk more on that.
I was gonna say, yeah, definitely keep your ear to the ground with your like place of employment. I was like, geez, I don't know how I'm gonna make this work. And then like sure enough, like that weekly newsletter, it popped up. It was like, you can get authorized to up to $3,000 for like our clinical education fund. So just like submit an application, have your manager sign off, and then we'll review and get back to you. So it's a pretty awesome thing. And then also I would say with connecting with people for roommates, definitely utilize that ASCLS Connect forums. That's how I found my roommate last year, which is Jeremiah. I see him here. He's awesome, and that's what goes back to the meeting new people. He's super involved, and so he was like my go-to for like what was going on, and I was like, okay, solid. What's next? So yeah.
I will say too, like kind of piggybacking off of like the roommate idea, is that if you're going to jam like with other people, or I'd say like DC last year, when I went to legislative symposium last October, one of my our president for the state of Wyoming, Barb Harvey, she saw that somebody had posted in the Region 8 forum that they needed a roommate, and she knew that I could definitely have used a roommate to help with that cost splitting. And so just help from your fellow members in your state and everything too.
And it doesn't just have to be from within your state. As long as you're open to rooming with somebody else and making new friends. My first year I roomed with somebody from South Dakota. So
I would say that's the best way to do it. Like branch out, get to know people in other places. That's part of the experience, right? You don't want to stay in your bubble here. You really want to push the boundaries and meet people and be a little uncomfortable to get the most out of your experience. Anything you would like to add, Heather?
Honestly, I was just going to stress the be uncomfortable. Put yourself out there. Like, if you want a roommate, make it known. It might not be someone from your state, but so what? Like, put yourself out there.
Absolutely. And I don't know, for traveling on a budget, I feel like we do the scholarships. I know for me at Vanderbilt, bench staff don't typically get access to like an extra education fund, but it doesn't hurt to ask anyway, right? So that's what I did this year. I sent an email to the administrators and I was just like, I've been here for 2 years and you guys don't typically support education for our professionals, but here's why I think it matters. And it's not a lot, but they're going to support $500 toward my attendance at the meeting this year. So
Well,
I think every
the
little
worst they can say is no. And if you never ask, then they're never gonna know that there's a desire for it. Like the
Or a
first,
need.
yeah, the first jam I went to, I was like, I mean, I told my husband who works in tech, I'm like, yeah, I'm using my own money to pay for it. I'm using my own PTO. I'm using my own everything. And to him, as someone who works in tech, he was like, wait, what? They're not paying for you to go? You have to use your own PTO? And I was like, yeah, because it never even dawned on me to ask. And I mean, I went to my lab director and I asked, and he was just like, no. But at least then I was maybe that first voice to say, like, hey, you want me to have this certification? Well, I need continuing education to maintain this certification. So, like, why wouldn't you pay for it? And I mean, I might have been the first one to ask, and I was told no, but maybe someone down the road will be the second, third, fourth, whatever person to ask, and one of them will be told yes. So asking, do it. Like, ask. They won't know there's a need for it unless you ask. And like, you might be told no. Okay, ask again next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. You have to plant the seed and you have to show that there's some extrinsic and intrinsic value to the meeting, to the society. And even if they don't know before you went the first time, they're going to know when you come back. And then they're going to know the second year. And it just kind of builds, it compounds. So over time, they're going to want to support it.
And I think kind of bouncing off that, like, one, having your budget made ahead of time, I think is really is a really strong thing to have behind you. And then also something that I do, because when I very first started going to conferences, I thought that we had to write up a summary of like what the conference was like. Come to find out I don't, but I actually still do that, because if at any point, like, one, I could put it on my CV, and two, if at any point the opportunity arises, I could say, this is why, faculty in my position now, faculty deserve more professional development funding, because this is what it's done for me as a professional, as an educator, to make myself a better tech overall. And honestly, I know a lot of people don't see themselves as leaders, but regardless if you're working the bench or if you're a lead tech or manager, supervisor, we're all leaders. And so this really helps create us into stronger leaders also. So, yeah.
Yeah, to go on the leader thing, I just want to say, I don't think I ever would have been a volunteer leader had I not attended my first jam in Grand Rapids. That is where I became the vice chair of this forum. Now I'm the chair. Next year, I'll be the director. It's where I met Heather and Sarah. I met Christal there for the first time in person. I met Ethan last year in Providence. That was only my second jam. I've gone 2 years now, and I feel like, actually, I know for a fact, I know someone in every single state in the United States. And I just think that's one of the valuable pieces of it. So going off of that, do you feel like your network has grown because you've attended JAM? And is it only bench techs that are attending? I mean, who all is really there? Are we talking PhDs, managers? Who do you see there? Heather?
Okay, so a couple years ago, I worked in micro and I was talking to one of my coworkers, and she was talking about how when she was studying to get her micro specialist certification, the way that she studied was reading Pat Tilley's micro textbook. And like, that's all she did. There were no other guidelines. Like, she read that book over and over and over again and like memorized it and passed her certification. And that year I went to one of my first ASCLS meetings and I was in line to get food behind Pat Tilley. And I was like, my My coworker studied for her specialist certification, reading your book. And I'm now on the board of directors as the Ascending Professional Forum director, and Pat Tilley is our president-elect. And there are committees that I'm on. It's like her, me, and 2 other people. And like, I don't know of any other professional organization where me as a fairly new professional would be on the board of directors with the president-elect on a committee of like 5 people. Like, that is lunacy to me. Like, that's what this organization can give you, is everybody comes to these meetings and you're in line next to them for food.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to say that Pat Tilley is the coolest person I have ever met. I love her. And the 16th edition of her microbiology textbook just came out. I just saw the picture of it. It looks really cool. So I also thought it was amazing to meet Pat.
She has some wild stories about teaching students about gonorrhea and thinking outside the box. And I'm just gonna put that out there, that like, lady is great. Think outside the box. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, I think one of my long-term goals is to achieve the doctorate in clinical laboratory science, or DCLS. At my first annual meeting in Grand Rapids, I met Brandy Gonzalez, who
I
was
was there when that
first.
happened. It was so hilarious.
Yes.
You were so starstruck.
I was like fangirling. I mean, flushed, about to cry and everything. And she was just like, hi. It was so casual for her. But for those who don't know, Brandy was the first DCLS graduate in the nation. So I thought that was really cool to meet her in person. And now she's one of my great friends. She's here in my region, just down in Georgia, which is Region 3. So another great experience I had.
You lost your mind when you met her. I remember. I thought you were going to pass out. Good Lord.
Close. Who wants to add? Okay.
I will say, as for other people that are attending, not only do you have DCLS and educators, you have lab managers, lab directors, you've got vendors, you have I I think it's second lieutenant that you start out when you enter into the military with the MLS, and from there up rank wise. I'm sure there are also some that are in there enlisted as well. So I wouldn't be sure where they're at rank wise with that, but they're all like bench tech students, so some that aren't, have never even worked a bench yet, that are just coming in and getting their feet wet. So there's all manner of spectrum of who is here and who is attending.
You also have the ability to volunteer. Like, you can volunteer at the registration desk. You meet people when they're coming in. We'll send out calls for moderators to volunteer, where you're introducing the speaker. And so you get to go in and like meet that person ahead of time and you're like, how do I say your name? Like, very general. Just, there's opportunities right and left if you take advantage of them.
Absolutely. And meeting with like vendors and authors and everything, it's really cool too, because you never know, by just expressing interest. I'd say like Media Lab, they're always looking for people to do new like case studies, and CEU organizer courses and everything. Publishers are always looking for people to review textbooks. It's a really great way to get your foot in the door and just saying like, hey, like, I would be interested in doing this. That would be something really cool. And the next thing you know, you're working with Pat Tilley to, I don't know, or on her microbiology book. And I think it's really nice because you remember that everybody is a human being with blood in their veins, just like you. And I think that sometimes helps with the imposter syndrome. I might be really bad at first, like I will say my very first CLEC that I ever went to, which is the Clinical Laboratory Educators Conference. I had extreme imposter syndrome, but the more you go, you're like, hey, like I do belong here. These are my people, and it's really reassuring.
Yeah, I really like that. You belong here. I think that just really speaks to the heart of everything, right? And I think I've heard that over and over again tonight. Everyone found someone. No one was ever alone. And I've never seen anyone alone. So I think that's a great testament to the joint annual meeting, to the conferences, to ASCLS as a whole. You belong here. We all belong here, right? So, guys, we have 3 minutes left. Is there anything else you would like to add about the annual meeting or ASCLS that you just feel like someone should know to get them to meet us in Pittsburgh?
I have been to other conferences who have claimed to be very, very open and welcoming. I don't know about that. We are. Like, be awkward, come up to me and be like, I don't know anybody here, help. I'll be your person. Like, I will introduce you to everyone I know. Like, I guarantee if you come up to any of the panelists here or our moderator and are just like, I don't know anybody, help me, we will all help you. Like, be awkward, come up to me, I will help. I will introduce you to everybody.
I will add one thing. If you're anything like me, you stress about what to wear. I would say any form of business casual is fine. Even like jeans with, oh yeah, like jeans with like a blazer, or always bring a jacket with you too, because it seems like regardless of any venue anywhere, the rooms always seem to be cold. So I always bring like a really warm jacket with me as well. And then comfortable shoes too. Usually I make it through like half a day in heels and then I quit. So
I wear Converse. I don't wear heels.
Yeah.
Dark jeans, Converse, and a shirt that's not a t-shirt.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, even if it were a
Yep.
t-shirt, I'm not
It's-
going to judge you. If you're
wear a
clothed,
lab week shirt.
yeah, if you're clothed and you come up to me and say, I don't know anyone here,
Mhm.
okay. But yeah, if you run cold, bring a jacket.
Yeah. And then Heather, what's the weather like there this time of year?
In July, it's probably going to be hot in Pittsburgh, like upper 70s, lower 80s. It's going to be warm, but I mean, it's a hotel. It's going to be air conditioned.
Yeah, I would say that like usually what we always do too is like, let's say during sessions, we're like in our like kind of fancy clothes, have the opportunity to like, dress up if you want, but like Heather said, if you don't, but then we always change before into comfortable clothes before we like head out anywhere too. So I would kind of
Yeah, Marianne pointed out in the chat, we have a lot of rivers here. If it's rainy, it's gonna be humid. So like you're gonna be damp and hot. So
Yeah.
no 3-piece suits. Don't do that.
Would you like to add something here at the end, Christal or Ethan?
I would just love to say that Jam getting to go every year is just a breath of fresh air for me. It is what gets me through the next year. The energy that I need. So, being around other people who care as much about what we're doing at work every day. Like these are the people that you get to go to and you can talk about issues you're having at work that maybe you can't talk about with your coworkers and maybe get a solution for something that you're struggling with. They offer networking, they offer compassion, they offer empathy. So for me, like it's important to get here and just get that recharge.
Yeah, I love that. I would say it's a chance to level up your professional life, and it's a cool way to make friends. It's a really awesome experience to just explore a new city and kind of combine travel and a little bit of leisure with all the fun parts of learning and your job and the profession, which I think is awesome.
All right. Thank you for that, Ethan. All right, everyone, this concludes our panel on My First Jam. Thank you to all our panelists tonight, and we hope to see you in about 3 weeks and 6 days.